in the dressing room, there was a mirror leaning up against the wall. I didn't learn about this story, by the way, until it had already happened and there was a big explosion. But the mirror was laid on the floor, and Chris, he took a shit on it.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, did you know that you can leave comments now on Spotify? I just learned about this. So if you go to an episode and click on it and scroll down, there's a comments section. So you can say something if you like the episode or how much you really love the episode. You know, no negative comments, just positive ones, because they're more beneficial. So go check it out and start a thread. 30footFALL is an American punk rock band that began in Houston, Texas. In '95, they released their first studio album, Divided We Stand, on Fuzzgun Records. After hearing a demo, Bob Becker of Fearless Records signed them to a record deal, and in '97 produced their next album, Acme 143. In '99, the band released their most successful album, Ever Revolving, Never Evolving, on Nitro Records. The release was followed by numerous shows, including a tour with the Vandals. I heard about these guys on the Fearless Flush sampler when I got that at a local Jersey show when I was 18. I think it was at West Orange, American Legion, and Bigwig was playing, and they were selling it. This is where I was introduced to serial killer clothing, I was introduced to Fearless Records, and so on and so forth. And that sampler introduced us to a ton of bands, which Butch and I talk about in this interview. And 30footFALL has always stuck in my head for the years of someone I want to interview, and I've been reaching out for a long time trying to get in touch with them because I want to get Butch on the Skype, and thanks to Jason Mack, I did, and this is what we chat about. The Fearless Flush sampler, wanting to change their name in the beginning, current house shows in Houston, Jim Cherry advocating them to get on Fearless, the Punk Bites comp, playing Warped Tour, getting signed to Nitro, stopping touring altogether, their album Doppler Effect, their annual Christmas shows, their latest release, The Gross Story, and a ton more. Lastly, if you work for a company or you own a company that has a hard time explaining what you do, I can do that in 60 to 90 seconds with explainer animations. That's what I've been doing for the last 13 years with my company, Drive80.com, DRIVE80.com. Again, I will mention this at some point again in the middle of the interview. If you'd like to get some samples and pricing, just email mike@drive80.com and I will send you some. That's all I got to say, so feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Yeah, what happened was I had interviewed Tom Petta in the very beginning of this thing. Josh reached out to Rubio, and we were talking, and then he connected you, and then it just kind of went nowhere, which is fine. Because like I have like a people where I've gone after for years, because as soon as my mind set to it, I'm like, I'm going to fucking make this happen, because, you know, people's schedules. But I got to give a shout out to Jason Mack for connecting us this round, which made this happen. How do you know him?
I don't know. I didn't dig too deep. He sent some photos, and I was like, holy shit, that is amazing, because it was a whole other life ago. But I recognized the scene and the sitting around, but I couldn't remember the exact occasion or anything. But I believe we were touring with our friends from home, a 2-person rap group called I-45, who we didn't tell any of the venues they were coming. They just drove with us in their car, and then they would hook up their cassette player to the sound, and we'd give them about 4 songs worth of our set. Well, you see what a picture can do. I even missed the sweatshirt that I was wearing. Well, that's easy to do these days. Have a memory triggered, and then I got to figure out which path I want to take and how far I want to go down on it. Oops.
Yeah, he messaged me on Instagram, because I'll post on my Instagram, I'll say randomly, bands I want to connect with or been trying to connect with, can anyone help me out? And then people will message me. So I think that's how this came about.
Thank you to him, and I promised to look into that to see what the original score was. There's a lot of things I can't remember.
That's fine. I'm sure there'll be some things I'm able to nudge and unlock from the conversation right now.
When you say Bigwig, are you talking about the Josh Bigwig of the early Bigwig, or is this Josh of Overdrives who played in Bigwig later?
Oh, good memory. This is from... Actually, you know what? I don't know. I thought it was Josh from Overdrive. Actually, I thought it was the original Josh, but this could be Josh from Overdrive, so I actually don't know.
Yeah, I looked at his social media and I didn't see any pictures that are recognized. Either way, I love both of them. And that just basically that whole crew, all we did was have a great time anytime we hooked up. Super fun. And it was just a right time in our lives to have that sort of extended, hair on fire, good time.
Well, actually, the way I found out about you guys originally was because of Bigwig, because I'm from New Jersey. I used to play in a band there, grew up in the scene. That's how I got into the whole punk scene. And got into Bigwig because we played a show with them, fell in love with them. And they had all of this merch, and one of them was the Fearless Flush Sampler. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. And Punk Rock's in Your Head was our song that was on that one.
Yeah, because I was going through Spotify to just like play some old songs, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking totally remember this. I also forgot that at the end, and we can work back up to this, but I forgot that you guys did a cover of Dancing with Myself, and then there was a secret track that was just a continuation of you guys playing that song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it just kind of goes on and on. We used to do that live. It kept getting longer and longer. Recently, well, when I say recent, I mean in the last few years, played the album version with the extra bits on it. But yeah, that was good times.
So when you guys did that, that's where you had already been doing that live, or you just did that because you did that on the comp?
I think we were messing around with it. That song actually came from our first album called Divided We Stand, and that was the Dancing with Myself was the last track, and then there was just all the silliness after. And we had been messing around with adding the punk radio songs of the time, which were the Green Day song, the Offspring song, and the Rancid song that were on there in the practice space. When we ran out of songs to record, we realized we're in a studio and we can be silly and record it forever. So we did that. So the Slayer bits and anything else that pops up, those just sort of happened.
To start this off, how did you initially get into the punk scene?
Well, okay. Aside from spending the night at my friend George's house when 1988 was turning to 1989, let's see, the Sugar Cubes were on Saturday Night Live that night. In between their songs, my friend played me Gimme Convenience or Gimme Death. I hadn't heard that yet. So far, I'd heard Suicidal's Institutionalized and DRI's Dealing with It. I thought that was cool stuff, but I didn't have connection to it because I didn't live where it was easy to access stuff like that. But this same friend later on that year, I can't remember now. Maybe it was February of '89. We were at our normal skate spot in the hood on Houston's north side. He said, hey, my mom is going to drop my sister and I off to see 7 Seconds. And I said, I don't know what that means. And he said, well, you want to come with me? And I said, okay. We went, and it was a humid, cold, the way Houston can be very humid and cold at the same time, night. And we were standing in line and waiting for this venue, the Axiom, to open. I had seen some punks before when an older cousin took me on a strip in a neighborhood street named Westheimer. Used to have cars going back and forth. That was where I saw first punks, prostitutes, other various weirdos of the neighborhood. But I'd never seen many in one place. And then the straight edge kids who I didn't know what that was. There was a girl with blue hair. That was not common February '89. Then we watched the first band. I'm standing at the edge of this like a whirling group of people. I'm like, what is going on here? And somebody grabs me and pulls me in, and I'm just getting pushed every which way. I'm like, this is fun and terrifying. And then I hit the floor, and I'm like, this is it. This is the end. And hands picked me up, put me on my feet, and we kept going. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, whatever just happened, whatever this interaction is, I had not had that before. So then later that night, 7 Seconds, who I didn't know anything about, comes on. I realize I'm in a room full of strangers who are all singing the choruses to these songs I've never heard before. And there's a bunch of different factions of people all just feeling this moment and singing these songs, I was pretty hooked, right? I mean, I knew I was seeing something important, at least for me.
What was your personality like at that point? Were you outgoing or were you an introvert?
Oh, well, I'd say outgoing, depending. I was a skateboarder, so however difficult it might have been for me to communicate with people, I at least had that in common with other people who weren't into team sports. I was kind of a goofy dork. Well, that hasn't changed. It's just gotten easier to assimilate it into conversation. I wouldn't say I was a homebody. I didn't know a lot, and I didn't know a lot of people.
Well, I guess I'm asking that because when you go to a show like that, if you are kind of a quiet person and you see this, what happened to you, where everyone explodes, you're just thrown in that, you get picked up. It's like all these things are brand new to you, and you're kind of like maybe you open up more, or you're already. I've been looking for this. That this is matching my persona, or this is so opposite of me that I want more of it.
Oh, well, sorry if you hear my dogs. They're wondering who I'm talking to and why I'm talking to the air. That show was definitely a part of it. And then, so I was 15 at the time, beginning to go to other shows. Like, I think that the show I went to after that was kind of wildly different. It was New Order on their Techniques tour, which was also awesome, but in a completely different sense, that there were 1,000 people or more watching this big sound happen. So that's two different flavors of, I don't know, music scene. What really made me be able to, I don't know, become something, become more of myself, was when I discovered that local bands, not just touring bands, were doing the same thing. We're like playing music and having people come through. After realizing that we had like this wealth of bands here in Houston, I started going to those shows, whether it was punk or Texas funk, which was big at the time, or basically anybody that was on a stage. That was when I started to become whoever it was I was going to become.
Were you like a performer at all before that? Like, did you plays or maybe just do stuff at home where you were, because you're a front man. So I'm trying to think of like what leads to that.
Well, I was always performing in the sense of I was a clown around a bunch of people. For better or for worse, that was me in school. As I mentioned before, I was kind of dorky. My sense of humor was sort of a way to get by. So I wasn't caught off guard by the feeling of standing in front of people. I definitely felt pressure to not fuck it up and do and be good, such as good was at the moment.
Does that mean when you got into the band, or was that prior to that? Were you in other bands prior to 30footFALL?
No, this was number one band, and there's been other kind of side things that have come and gone that were just kind of fun or covers or something. 30footFALL was this weird thing that happened where I got in a band and we put a lot of work into it. It became our lives, quickly, and we couldn't believe it. And it's still, we're still pretty grateful and amazed by the fact that it's gone on for so long.
So it seems like the band starts without you and then you join, or were you from the beginning in the band?
Well, that was kind of it. Rubio, our bass player, and Tony, a.k.a. Marshall Falcon now, were in the band, and we all went to the same high school. They reached out and said, hey, would you want to try singing? So I went to their practice space, and we had a good time. And we didn't have any lyrics, so I picked up the local public news rag, and I just read words out of it or yelled words out of it and jumped around the practice space. Like it was really fun to be loud with a microphone and be a part of whatever was in control of the noise that was happening. They were like, after a couple times of doing that, they were like, okay, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Hey, but you know what? We should maybe think about another name, that doesn't suck. They're like, but we already made stickers. And he opens up a shoebox, and it's those paper peel-off stickers you get from Kinko's. And I was like, this is our commitment to this name? Anyway, it stuck.
Why didn't you like the name?
I mean, what does it mean? What is it? I don't know what it is. It just didn't make any sense to me. It did not speak to me whatsoever. They did joke that they were like, hey, it will sound good chanted, like the syllable is just kind of 30-foot fall. I said, okay.
I think, to that point, I remember when I saw the name on the back of the Flush sampler, to me it made sense. Actually, it stood out. The name stood out to me for some reason. I don't know why, but I thought it was an interesting name.
Well, I've made my peace with it, and I'd say it's fine. And it's fine.
So how did you guys start playing local shows?
I think the first show, after they said yes to me in the band, they had one show without me, but without an actual singer. They had kicked out the fella who was going to be doing it, had one guy show up and just go blah, 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 blah into the mic. And so they did that under the name 30footFALL. But the first show with me and Rubio and Tony and a guy on bass was at a place called Zelda's, which was the downstairs of Fitzgerald's, which is sort of Houston. We'll talk about it more, but it was a big place in Houston. That was our first show, and we had friends there and family. It was like any brand new band who has not been in a band before, first show, like some friends in bands, the odd aunt and uncle or parent or sibling or something, and then some polite applause to whatever it was that just happened.
Then how does it lead to you guys like continuing to play and getting like more recognition locally?
Oh, well, so we're still talking way back in like 93. We tried to play at first every 2 weeks at any place we could go to. Like we just played as often as possible, practicing, a couple nights a week. Eventually, we start to have a little bit of a draw, which was an important thing for the clubs around here at the time. Like it was very much the old school of who comes to your shows? Do you have any draw? And what are you going to do for me? That being the club. But once we started getting a draw, we tried our first round of headlining a show with our friends Blueprint. As it turns out, the same night, Rancid was playing only 2 miles away for whatever their album was out at that time. We still managed to have a full and real show, which is a testament not to that we were great and nobody wanted to see Rancid. Their show was sold out. But there are so many people in Houston that come to shows and want to see local music. So after that was a success, we started playing maybe once a month instead of twice a month.
Wait, why would you do once a month instead of twice a month?
So that people would maybe be more interested in coming to see us instead of they play all the time.
Growing up in Jersey, the local scene was Knights of Columbus, Legion Halls, churches, shit like that. Did you guys just all have clubs, or did you also have local venues like Legion Halls and stuff?
There was some of that, but like those venues didn't last long. As this being the South, anything that was bothersome, they wouldn't put up with it for very long. It was mostly clubs and bar venues. Let me think about this. There were a couple of small spots. The Axiom was a punk club that was like by local musicians for local musicians. It was awesome. Fitzgerald's, which was our home, was more like playing at a business. So was the Vatican. And even when one club changed hands, we called to book a show. The guy was like, "We don't want you to play any other clubs, only our club." And that was weird. And of course, we didn't do that. But yeah, sorry, that's a long answer to a short question. We have a bigger scene of like secret house shows and word of mouth shows and like one time only venues now than we used to. The generation of musicians now is just like get in where you fit in, and it's really cool to see.
That's awesome.
The kids that came out of COVID who didn't have a music scene of their own or missed out for some years, they just like blew up. They get a generator and play. There's some place that has shows under a bridge nearby. There's another one that's like a warehouse in a part of town that's full of warehouses, and you can't tell what it is, but it's a venue called Trip 6, and it doesn't look like anything from the outside except for that there were some Christmas lights, but you go inside and there's quarter pipes on each wall. The kids are all hanging together. There's no tough punk guy attitude, which was a bummer for the 90s. The kids are going off, and it's really cool. When 30footFALL went to play a show at that venue with some other bands, I wouldn't call us the elderly statesmen. I kind of think that a lot of the kids thought that someone's parents showed up that never stopped wearing black because it was just a lot of us.
That's fucking awesome. Do you know Jacob Cal by chance?
I don't know.
When we were on the road, we met him. He helped us get on shows or put on shows for us in Houston. And he seems like he was very embedded in the scene. So I don't know if I just figured like there's a possibility that you guys maybe have run into each other, but it doesn't sound like it.
Oh, well, there was more than one scene in this giant town. There were some kids booking shows for a number of years called Hands Up Houston, who put on all kinds of stuff. Sadly, we never did a show with them, but it's mostly because we had our own thing going on and we were running it our way. They brought a lot of small and cool bands to town and some bigger stuff too.
On Discogs, it says it's about 2 years before you put out Divided We Stand on Fuzzgun.
Yes, that's right.
Were they a local label or were they somewhere else in the States?
Oh yeah, that was local. The guy lived in Beaumont, Texas, which is like an hour and a half from here, like a little country town. They had a club out there called Fuzzgun. The guy Mark wanted to get into putting out stuff, so he'd put out some things from folks in Beaumont and then some Houston bits. It was 100% as DIY as it gets, without a doubt.
I'm actually looking at it right now. They put out River Phoenix before they were Phoenix TX, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In '96. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. So when you guys get on that label, what starts to happen to the band? Are you guys playing bigger shows? You start going on tour?
Yeah. So now we've got an album, and our local shows have changed in that we've got music out that people are listening to outside. So the shows get more exciting because people are singing and recognizing songs. We're able to save some money from playing shows, and we get a van and we start touring. I guess this was 95. I can't remember.
It says 95 is when you put the first record out.
Okay, so there was that. Like many people, our first several tours were all done via Book Your Own Fucking Life. Good times. Sometimes there was a show. Sometimes there wasn't a show.
Yeah.
Some of it was a calling card. Some of it was snail mail. But it was super great. And so glad we did it that way, because now anytime we do something, and we can just be amazed at how nice it is to just show up and know that the show is going to be there.
Who was doing the booking for you guys?
Now?
Then, when you guys were starting off.
Then. Oh, geez. Okay. After Book Your Own Fucking Life, after we didn't need that, it was, I guess, Becca Porter, who worked with Fearless Records, started moving stuff around for us. And there might have been somebody else, but that's who I remember the most. She was a big help.
Did you get her because when you got on Fearless, or was this before Fearless?
I can't tell. I think it's probably after we got on Fearless. It's hard to tell. We went and visited Bob at Fearless a couple of times on different tours just to show him that we're taking care of business on our own, whether you help us or not. But it would sure be cool if you helped us out. And so he put us on the Punk Bites Volume 1. Our Junior High Sucked song, and that was our first song that wasn't only released in Texas, and I think we were the only not California band on the whole thing, but that helped a lot. We started getting snail mail for it, which I still have. I was just going through a box today looking for old flyers for a project. Yeah, so Fearless, let's see, Punk Bites, Becca Porter. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Why was Fearless on your radar to get on them?
Jeez. I wish Rubio was here. I don't know how we knew about them. Rubio knows the story and the timeline better, because I think he was the one that was able to hook us up. But we might have. Oh no, Jim was and Strung Out.
Jim Cherry.
Jim Cherry. He passed away, right?
Yeah, everyone. He comes up a lot in different interviews on this podcast.
Okay, so Jim Cherry. We played with Strung Out somewhere, and Jim Cherry liked us and told Bob at Fearless about us. That's what it was. And maybe he told us, and so we reached out, or maybe Bob reached out. I can't remember, but we did pass through a few times and just hang out and get some dinner. But then I guess we made plans to record the second album, and that Acme 143 that came out on Fearless, and we were super excited and proud and stoked and all that. We're like, look, we're a real band.
How does your stage presence I'm trying to ask here is, in the beginning when you get on stage and you're a front man, you have nothing to hide behind except the mic. It can be a little intimidating, and then through time, especially doing it for so long, you get comfortable with it. So in between when you guys first started and getting to Fearless, like where did your guys' stage presence kind of mold? Like what did it become by that point?
In the beginning, I didn't know who I was in terms of like I had not settled into whoever I became on stage. Like I was still kind of nervous. I would use that to kind of go off, but I didn't feel terribly communicative with folks. And I didn't have any idea that the band would continue either. So there was no like long-term plan or thinking, well, I need to learn how to do this. It just sort of changed as people began kind of paying attention and being a part of it themselves by, coming to, repeat shows and singing and whatnot. But once that happened and I saw the value and excitement of sort of including people in the show, like making their feeling part of the show, that became like a kind of a permanent part of it. Holding out the mic so somebody can sing, or giving people a chance to say a thing, making it feel like we're all kind of here at the same time versus you guys are down there and we're up here.
What do you mean, like giving to say a thing?
Maybe like giving people a chance to respond to a question or fucking with them a little bit. Anything that gave us some back and forth. For one, it was fun, and two, it just made it feel less like strangers.
How big is Fearless at this point in '97? When you guys are getting on there, or when Jim suggests it, and you're like showing up Bob's and it's like, hey, you should keep us in mind. Are you seeing that like if we get on this is going to be a huge step for us?
Oh, yes. Well, especially I'm holding a Punk Bites comp in my hand now.
Oh, really?
Just so I can remember. The bands that are on this comp that I know he like put out full albums for, and I'm probably going to forget something. Blunt, Whitecaps, Drunk in Public, Fury 66, Straight Faced, 30footFALL. But the bands that are on here that just got on his comp to, be a part of it. Diesel Boy, Vandals, No Use for a Name, Assorted Jelly Beans, Strung Out, 10-Foot Pole, The Nobodies, DI, Naked Aggression. We were just like, look, our name, we are with these bands. People are, if they make it all the way through the second half of the second side, they might hear our song. Sorry, I'm looking at this, and like I said, multiple things open up in my head, and then I get lost on whatever it was I was talking about because it's a cloud of memory.
What was like some of the things that popped up?
Once we were on tour, and we got to the venue really early, and it was a sort of Jelly Beans was there also. So we all set up and had like a sort of a midday practice, and there was a sort of Jelly Beans and their crew and us and our roadie and just whoever happened to be hanging out. It wasn't a big deal. It was just saw their name and thought of it. And Blunt from Florida, nice folks who would see us around when we came to Florida, and we were there for their last show. Diesel Boy, we did a long tour with. Straight Faced, the sort of hardcore band of Fearless. We did at least a handful of shows with them on various tours, and they were all friendly. They were definitely hardcore, and we were not. it was clear, but we had a good time together. DI, is it Wade? Is in DI? I hope I'm saying the right thing.
Don't know. I can cheat though and look on Discogs right now.
He was Joe Schmo in Suburbia. I think he was in DI. Once when 30footFALL was playing a show with, I think it was Face to Face, Strung Out, DI, and us. Terrible show for us. We really sucked. Joe Schmo was like, hey, you need a haircut. And he shaved my hair off in the dressing room before before the show. And I put all my hair in my hat, and throughout the show, just threw little pieces of it at people. It was probably the best part of the show. We had a really bad time.
That's gross.
Yeah.
What was the guy's name again you're thinking of? The Joe
Wade, a.k.a. Joe Schmo.
I'm on their Discogs right now. It's like Alfie, Casey, Clinton. There's a shit ton of people that are in this band. Oh, Wade. Yeah, Wade Walston.
Oh, a real person. Okay,
yeah,
I didn't
there
know
we
that.
go. Okay. Were you on Fearless first and then got on the comp, or were you on the comp and then got on Fearless for Punk Bites?
Comp and then Fearless.
Was there something specific that happened for? Because I feel like when a comp comes out, a label is giving bands a chance. It's like, okay, like let me, we're not gonna be on the label, but we'll throw you on this. So I don't know if something happens where that label on that comp comes out and your name starts getting thrown around more, where Bob pays attention to that, or he just really liked your band and just decided to sign you.
I don't know what was happening on Bob's side of things, except for him, witnessing that we were touring and paying our way and making it happen one way or the other. I know for us, after the comp came out, we started getting some actual snail mail. Maybe it was via Fearless Records, like people would send a letter to them and we picked it up, because our address isn't on here unless it's inside this record.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think they usually put various addresses in there. I'm like trying to scroll through the images. This fucking Food Lion banner's in my way though. Oh, fuck. So when we played with them and they had the Flush sampler, they had all of this Fearless stuff, and so all you guys were just plastered everywhere, and that's how Jersey, I mean, from my perspective, I'm sure other states too, other scenes, found out about you guys. But it seemed from that sampler, I guess because you guys were all on Fearless, for some reason I thought that all of you on that label knew each other or would tour with each other or were friends. Was that like that, or was it not like that?
Do you have the Flush sampler in front of you?
Yeah, let me send you. I can actually send you a link through the message here.
I've got one somewhere, but it is not handy.
Yeah, I just sent you a link to the website that has the list.
Ooh, and I can click on it while we're doing this?
I believe so.
Okay. Chuck, Blue Gun, Strung Out, 30footFALL, Straight Face, Blunt, Big Wig, White Caps, Grabbers. I think we played with all of these bands except for Dead Laszlo's Place. Maybe we played with Grabbers. We played with Chuck. We played with Glue Gun, Strung Out. Of course, Big Wig for sure.
Was this when you guys just were on the road and would stop in different states and play with them, or did you actually go on tour with these guys?
When we would hit Southern California, Bob would set up as many shows as he could, all within an hour and a half drive of where he lived in Garden Grove, I think. And it would, often be with one of these bands. If it was a Big Wig or Straight-Faced show, it was usually kind of a bigger deal related to like a bigger or more well-known punk venue or something. Sometimes we would just play on the floor of a restaurant that had a bar.
Did you guys play Warped Tour at all? Did you ever get on a stage there?
We played the local stage of one Warped Tour in 1998 or 9, maybe 99 here in Houston, and it was fucking hot.
Was it fun, or was it just kind of like not worth it?
I mean, it was cool. I thought it was gonna suck just because we were on the only stage that did not have any covering in the middle of the summer in a parking lot. There were lots of people that normally went to our shows who made it to the stage while we were playing, so we saw friendly faces, and it was a good time. I mean, it would have been fun to have been a part of Warped Tour, I imagine, but it wasn't particularly fun to just play one show for free in a really hot parking lot.
What was you guys like internally as far as, did you have anything you were outspoken against? Or I think just the Warped Tour thing kind of triggered this question, where some bands were very adamant about, we won't do this and this and this because it's not punk rock and it's selling out or something. And then there's other bands where we're going to do everything possible because fuck it, we're just going to have a good time.
It didn't bother me what was happening at Warped Tour. I didn't make it a point. I never paid to go to one. I attended 2 or 3, but because I was lucky enough to have somebody say, hey, I can get you into this. And so I got to see Bad Religion twice. In fact, that's about all I remember, because that was the reason I went, was to see Bad Religion. I don't care. It would have been great to do it if we had. I think the way we might have looked at it was, next time we come through, we'll be able to get paid enough to, have a meal and maybe stay in a place with a shower. I get it. And I was actually sort of on that team, but maybe not particularly about Warped Tour as far as being a purist in terms of how shows are done and where they come from and what's going on, but I wasn't about Warped Tour. I kind of just didn't care.
Yeah, I feel like the earlier Warped Tour was cool, and then I think, especially in the mid 2000s, in the beginning, it started just getting really fucking lame, just from my perspective.
It seemed like, yeah, when I went to one of them, it just seemed like a punk rock, like kind of mall / flea market.
Yeah.
And I didn't need any of that. And this is no diss on any of the bands there, anybody who was trying to make it happen. Just saying, there was nothing going on there that was showing me anything new or anything that I needed to learn about. If you had enough money, you could buy stuff. Otherwise, you can go get pummeled by some bro dude who will not like this music as soon as he starts tucking in his shirt.
That's a really good point. I never thought of it like that, where that was an era, and we're just going to jump forward for a second, but that was an era where it did feel like there was no growth. It was just kind of it's like frozen in time in this shitty, I mean, I definitely like some bands from that era, but a majority of them at that time, I was just like, ugh. But there was, yeah, it didn't seem like it was progressing anything in a direction like it was in like the late 90s, the mid 90s.
Yes. There was a crazy blow up. The 90s were like a nutty time. Like, it was cool to see so many people start bands, and it was cool to learn about so many bands, and it was complicated to watch bands that you really like kind of treading the water of, listen, I didn't like and this is not, I'm not naming names or anything because it's not like that. I'm just saying I didn't like seeing the music turn into kind of punk rock pop songs for MTV. That's just me, and that, it's fine for the people that did it, but I for sure didn't want to be a part of whatever was diluting everything. And there was a lot of that was happening in the 90s. That did expose a lot of kids who wouldn't have had it before, and then they just dig a little further and they realize, wow, there's something else. Just like me, I discovered my own scene because something bigger happened.
You go from Fearless to Nitro, and Nitro, was that a lateral move, or was that more of a progression to a bigger label? Because I remember Nitro, and I remember that it seemed bigger because What's His Face from Offspring owned it, and there were some bands, but it didn't seem like it was this giant jump away from Fearless.
It was bigger in that there was more money available for help on tour, and it seemed like there was the Vandals. To be on the label with the Vandals itself was a thrill, and our late guitarist Chris LaForge was pretty proud of that part. And to their credit, when we were on tour, and I guess we were in Pittsburgh, and Rubio left the backpack full of our money upstairs at the club, and realized it when we were was this the Independence Day tour? We had to turn around and haul ass back to the club. And of course we got there and everybody's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, man. So we absolutely didn't have any money or itinerary or whatever it was that we needed to think and eat with. They sent us money and enough for us to continue on as we were doing. I mean, they were there.
That was Nitro who did that.
That was Nitro. Oh, but in the same vein, let me say that Bob would have us stay at his house the entire time we would be in California. So we might be at his house for 6 or 7 days, a lot of us, and we were the first band that he brought in like that. They had never had bands stay at the house before. They started letting us do that on tour, and then for one tour, there was 30footFALL and Bigwig and roadies all at their house. Oh, man, that was super fun. I mean, like, that was so many people. There's so many cats to herd to get in a van to go do a thing. So many people that are hungry, or so many people to share a bathroom. And then meanwhile, Bob and Michelle were totally awesome and welcoming and cool.
Real quick, if you're looking for an explainer video or someone to do motion graphics for your company, check out my company, drive80.com, and you can email me at mike@drive80.com for more info. That's all I got to say. So now back to the interview. Was this before, when you did the whole staying at his house, was that before you guys left when you were on Fearless, or was this also after you're off Fearless?
While we're on Fearless, but we probably stayed over there another time or two. In fact, I'm sure of it. We probably stayed there another time while we were on Nitro.
So there was like no hard feelings when you guys went to Nitro?
No. It was, everything was all good. Bob always wanted everybody to succeed. We're on a first name basis with some people at Nitro, but we weren't like family close to anybody because For one, we didn't live there, and they were more of a grown up business situation, like an office with multiple desks, and Dexter had his own office, and we were stoked to be on Nitro, but various things, some stuff external to the band sort of affected the band, and we didn't tour for a bit. Nitro became disinterested. We had to take care of our own shit. We kind of didn't tour much after 2000.
But that was because of just some internal stuff in the band, and then just financially, it just wasn't working out with the label.
Yeah, I guess that's the deal. We were midway through a tour when I got some bad news from home, and I could not tour with all of it on my mind, but I was also, we were younger and didn't know how to talk to each other, so I didn't know how to rely on my friends. That caused us to, I was quiet about whatever it was that was getting me, and and as far as anybody else knows, I just canceled a tour and stopped everything. Eventually, we all made up and everything was good, but that did sort of stop things for Nitro and sour things with this dude who was booking us, who I can't remember his name, might have been Ben or something. He was a kind of a big deal. I'm kind of a big deal. Yeah, shit happened.
What I can see here, 99 you guys put out, Ever Revolving, Never Evolving, and then that's on Nitro, and then there's about a 3-year break, and then you put out Doppler Effect. And so at what point in that time where you decided to take a break from touring, where things got back to where they needed to be for you to get back on the road? Did it take a couple of years or just a year?
We haven't been a touring band for years. We've done some shows where we've flown out places or made long drives to play a show or two, but we never toured on Doppler Effect. Just recently, in this past year or so, we've done the most out of state and the first out of the country shows that we've ever done. There's a story behind it, but we didn't see it coming. But we are energized and active again, and we're fucking stoked.
And so this is 20 years after this, or 22 years after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So why do you guys stop touring and went from Doppler Effect and 10 years and still falling?
After our issues around the time of Nitro, not issues with Nitro, but just at that time, Chris LaForge dropped out of the band, and our first drummer was Damon De La Paz, who also played guitar in River Phoenix. When River Phoenix started getting busy, Damon stepped out. For the last few tours and for the Nitro record, Brian Davis, our drummer since then, stepped in. And his brother, Jason, stepped in on guitar once Chris LaForge left. And both Jason and Brian are super excellent musicians that can kind of play whatever they want. We were stoked to have them. Doppler Effect, the idea behind the name and the train on the front and a caboose on the back was supposed to be I figured it was going to be our last album. Who knew if we'd even play any more shows? And so the Doppler Effect, is kind of the sound of us coming and going. And it took about a year and a half to complete that album because we recorded 6 songs and then didn't know what we were going to do with them. And something struck us. We started demoing the songs again at Brian's parents' house. Those were fun times, man. We were just workshopping the hell out of them. We went back to the place where we recorded Acme 143. And man, I got to tell you, Doppler Effect originally was going to have we were kind of set to have a distribution through a place in Houston that was a distributor for music. And man, they folded right when we needed them after a long time of being active. So that album, which I love, I think is, pardon me, but I think it's a great fucking album. I mean, I love listening to it. I'm real proud of it. I mean, I feel the same about all of them. Ever Revolving, super proud, but I consider that from a different era than Doppler Effect. Doppler just kind of had a different sound and a kind of different feel thematically. We felt like we had this kind of gem, but it didn't do much and outside of Houston. But I haven't said it yet, but the Houston scene for years, especially from the 90s, through the mid 2000s, the scene was so strong that if your band never toured and all you ever did was play Houston and your band was doing well, you felt like a fucking star. I mean, like everybody seemed like everybody was in a band. Seemed like everybody that went to shows was friends with the bands. It was walking into cheers everywhere you went. And I'm not saying just the musicians, like the people that go to shows that were always there, they're, just as much a part of it. It felt really, I was like, okay, then, well, if nothing's going to happen, at least we have home. We continued to play at home, our annual Christmas show, and then a couple throughout the year. And, we weren't growing, but we were having fun doing the trick we knew how to do.
Why'd you guys decide that you didn't want to grow the band?
Well, I think we were kind of, at that point, it had been like 9 years. For a lot of bands, that's a long time. For us, it was a long time. And having lost that momentum and lost the ease of just getting it together, it was hard to do. And there were still some hard feelings around. Chris LaForge was unhappy that we had stopped. Eventually, like I said, all that got put together or put back together. LaForge got just kind of invited himself back in the band, maybe around 2002 or 3. Then we were a 2-guitar band. I think I had become a bike messenger at that point, and so I had something. I had a whole another scene to distract me, and I don't know. That's why didn't we go back to it? It's hard to really pinpoint it, but we had a lot of energy and we lost a lot of it, and it was kind of hard to recover from the loss.
There's been a couple bands that I've interviewed that have had the same kind of story where they were on this good trajectory and then something fell apart in the band in some way. Like I talked to Jack from Blunt and he was telling me how like they stopped, and then Gary and Freddie from Donuts and Glory, and how it was just like, I feel like there's a handful of bands or maybe more that they were around and all of a sudden it was, what the fuck happened to this band? Which is one of the reasons why, because obviously I knew about you guys back then, but I wanted to be like, what exactly happened? But you guys obviously are still together, but it just seemed that you, at that time, you just disappeared. But you had still been going even to this point, but it's more of a local thing. Like until now, you guys are leaving, or like, have you left the city to go and play shows outside of Houston?
Oh yeah, we've been doing kind of weekenders around the state. We'll do Corpus and San Antonio, or Austin and Dallas, or something like that. Last fall or winter, we went to Colorado and I think Nebraska, and just now we did 3 small shows in Belgium, one in Paris, and then the Brack Rock Festival was the end of that. Man, that was fucking great, super fun. We'll get there, but it feels fucking great, and we're excited. And it's kind of like this kind of thing. It's like at this point in life, like there's 4 of us. If you add us all up and then divide by 4, the age of this band is 49.75. And at this point in life, there's no reason we're definitely not doing this because we are planning on retiring on it. Like we're doing it because we are excited to be playing music again. And just the fact, any little energy that comes our way is worth celebrating. We're stoked and grateful and lucky, to the point that I feel pressure from myself during the day to think about the songs that are in my head or that we are demoing, to make sure that I get all the placeholder lines out or whatever before recording it, so that I can look at it and go, yes, I fucking touched every part and made sure that I didn't just say, well, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because when you put out Doppler Effect, you just play local once in a while, basically.
Oh, definitely every Christmas. We've played every Christmas night from 1994 to 2018 minus 99. We didn't play 2019 because Fitzgerald's closed and it was out of respect. But then the plague happened and we didn't play. And now we're back to playing Christmas nights, as well as like a couple of Houston shows during the year. But yeah, during Doppler, we'd be like a spring show, a summer show, maybe a fall show, and definitely Christmas. it wasn't to do anything, but to go play a show, do our songs. Like Brian and Jason have always been in multiple bands. Rubio was playing in Bickley and a couple other things here and there. I didn't have any other musical outlet. It was only 30footFALL, but like I said, I'd kind of fallen into bicycles and I was all about it. And I'm still about it. I work in a bicycle shop. Yeah, we didn't grow in that respect. Finally, in 2010, we released Jesus, Elvis, and Richard Petty, which was I like those songs. Yeah, it's a CD EP. Like we silk screened the covers at home. Brian burned the CDs at home. We lived in 3 different states, and everybody emailed their tracks. We're going to remix that. But for what it was nice to do a thing. Again, there was no movement for a long time. I lived and from 2000. Oh, this was a factor. I moved to Virginia in 2004 or 5 for a couple of years. I came back for a summer and then moved back in 2008 and stayed there until 2014. So that was a bit of a hindrance. I wasn't there to have a practice, and otherwise the fellows would have just been getting together. And, like I said, there was nothing lighting a fire to make that happen. But once I came back to town in 2014, we still not writing. I was demoing songs with Chris LaForge on his computer, but we weren't really making any of them happen. And the only song that we played new really was the title track from Jesus Elvis. It looked like we had things going, but we were at least Chris and I, maybe everybody, we were just kind of slack about it and more interested in drinking beer than getting anything done,
The thing that I find interesting is you guys, Divided We Stand comes out in 95, you start getting following, you get on Fearless, get bigger, you get on Nitro, that's a big thing, you guys stop. So from like 2002 until present day, you don't tour, you just play like a show here and there locally. And it's awesome that you guys get to keep doing that, but it's also interesting because I don't know, from like the pictures I've seen, it seems like you guys still get a decent sized crowd. Is that always been like that through the years, or is it like ebbed and flowed?
We've been really lucky that we have pulled a crowd for as long as we've been a band. It's nuts. It's crazy. It's great. There's a lot of people who we hear this at every show. Hey, you guys were my first show, and here's my daughter or my son. This is their first show.
That's cool.
The guy that's doing our helping us with the artwork, or at least the computer part for the live album we're about to put out, he was a baby at one of our shows at something that used to happen called the Westheimer Street Festival, and now he's a functioning person with a computer. That's just been great. And playing on Christmas night has been a big part of that, because a lot of people have either moved away or people are looking for a way out after having endured Christmas season.
Oh, it's always on Christmas night.
Well, a lot of we those shows are guaranteed to have people. Summer shows they're not bad.
No, I was saying like it's all like the show is always, but the Christmas show is always on Christmas night.
Oh, yeah, Christmas show is Christmas night.
Oh, that's crazy. That's awesome.
I have not seen my family past 4 p.m. Since 1994, except for during COVID. In fact, that was the longest we never played was COVID. Like we had never gone that long without playing a show. COVID was what did it. And I think our first show back was a benefit where we played at a skate park for our friend Corey. He started an organization that gives money to families with kids with certain heart conditions, like straight up money so they can have food or get hotels while hospital visits are going. So we played that. It was great to be back. It was like hot. Skateboarding was happening. We hadn't seen people in 2 years because of the plague, so it was a buzz just to be around so many people. And then later on that year in September, I was like, we should play a show. And Jason, guitarist Jason, said, okay, well, let's do that, but let's not play any of the songs we normally play. Let's play songs we've only demoed or songs that we put on albums that we'd never play live. So we put together a 10-song set, went and played at something called J-Fest, which is put on by a local band here called El Jumbotron, my current favorite local band. Well, anyway, we were the old people of the show. It was super great. Like kids were rocking out. That's why I was so proud of the kids, because a lot of them had only heard of us maybe through their parents, but they were rocking out nonetheless because people were playing music in front of them. Like we didn't have to pass a test. It was good times, and we were kind of nervous. We were out of our element, and also the sound on stage was terrible. So it was one of those, well, everybody do whatever it is you think is your part. Off we go. That's what moved us forward, was playing that show coming out of COVID. That led to Brian saying, hey, we've got these songs that we've been messing around with. We need to just get to recording them. And that, to make a long story short, became National Treasure and Other LaForgeries, which we just released like a month or two ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's you guys have these giant jumps between stuff. Like 2003 is the live record, Jesus, Elvis, and Richard Petty is 2011, and then what's like Champion Song, Maybe You Could Be the One. They're both on National Treasure, but that's like it says 2017. Champion Song was released. So you had how long? So how long have you had the 6 songs before you recorded them?
Well, it's called And Other LaForgeries because these are songs, whether they're written by LaForge or me or the entire band, these were among the last songs that we had demoed with Chris LaForge before he died. We had always wanted them to get finished. One as a way to, pay tribute to our friend, and the other to sort of, at least internally be like, okay, we've put a cap on something. Let's begin building from right here, writing songs from right now, whatever it is that we like, saying whatever the truth is now versus trying to do or be anything that we have done or been.
So this is kind of jumping back. I'm gonna start wrapping this up soon, but I had to just bring this up. I don't know, there's like a story here at all, but your Wikipedia, it mentions that as your popularity grew, you become openers for such bands as Screeching Weasel and Sum 41. I guess the Sum 41 thing stood out to me because they became huge, and I was wondering like what time period this was when you played with those guys. Do you remember this?
I can't remember. I feel like that was 2000. They were already big. It was early 2000s. It was already Brian and Jason. No offense to anybody. I didn't want to play the show. The vote was, it could expose more people to us. And, some people later on, years later, said, yeah, the first time I saw you was at a Sum 41 show. As far as our Wikipedia goes, like, I don't like that being I feel like the story that we are talking about here, if it could be condensed, would be a better timeline of what the band has been and done than we opened for these big bands, because that's kind of the thing that you mention when your band is brand new and you're like, hey, we got to play with these guys. And I'm stoked to have played with a bunch of amazing, cool, and definitely bigger bands than us. That just doesn't seem important to me in terms of what our actual story as a band is. I didn't meet them, and I was probably pretty disrespectful. I don't know anything about them as people, and like, let's pretend that was 20 years ago. Might have been 22, and so I am 50. My way of thinking about things is different now, but at the time I was like, fuck this fucking shit. Played most of the show singing from the side of the stage where they're making it look like there wasn't anybody singing on stage. What an asshole. I'm sorry, Rubio and Brian and Jason, but that was me.
I think that's why one of the reasons why I asked the question, because something like that can have an effect on a band where you did exactly that. It kind of just tells a bit more where you were at personally at that time. Like, were you all about it, or were you just, like you said, like, fuck this shit, I'm not about this? So I don't know. It just helps not like paint a negative picture, but just paints a picture about maybe you personally of where you were at that time.
It does, and that has been me for the most part. And Okay, I'm trying to talk here as a rep for the band, and I don't want to like make my views the band views. So, listener, be aware that these things are coming from my mouth and may or may not represent the rest of the band. Although I'm trying to do so with respect. I didn't want to be a band that had a stupid pop song video, and I didn't want to play with bands like that. And it was a thing thinking about but how do we live? How do we do this and live mixed with yes, but the avenue that everybody's holding up right now is like straight to the pop music bin, which comes and goes quickly, and then it's just garbage after that. And I didn't want that for us, for me, or for us. I am not the decider for those things. Again, I'm pretty sure. In fact, I know for sure it was difficult to be in a band with me, and thank you guys for continuing to do this for so many years. There's something I would like to add to this overall conversation. So 2017, when Champion Song was released, which we re-recorded for the National Treasure thing because we wanted to hear it without the 40 guitar tracks that LaForge had put on it. When LaForge died in 2017, that was us just saying something to and about and for him. Although we had played that song live with him a few times, and with LaForge gone, Jason was still playing guitar in the band. We had a show coming up at a St. Arnold's Brewery here in Houston, and it was only 3 weeks away when he died, and so we decided to not cancel the show and just play it for and talk about our brother Chris. And Chris's best friend, Chris Vasquez, our current guitarist, who we asked to step in and help out for that show. After doing that, and I think we might have done another thing or two, we asked him to please stay on in the band because he was already our brother, and he was I think he'd stepped in to play guitar a time or two before. Time has gone by, and now that we've done National Treasure, we're demoing things at Chris Vasquez's house to make a new album. And in any case, we had already made it all the way to 2024, and that important fact hadn't come up. Now, currently, the band is Brian Davis on drums, Rubio still on bass, Chris Vasquez playing guitar, and Jason, who is on the recording for National Treasure and is on the live album that's about to come out, played his farewell show at our 30th anniversary show in May of 23. So we are a four-piece again, but Jason has two kids and a lot of work going on, and so he had to do stuff. I didn't want this whole thing to go by without mentioning Vasquez as our guitarist now.
Yeah, no, that's a great place to put it.
We were also, as that stands, very fortunate to have Jason in the band for 22 years. And I got to tell you that when we played Attack of the Flaming Egos at the 30th anniversary show, the lead for the solo was done in true guitar nerd, like harmonized lead style, and standing in between the two of them sounded awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think that's a good spot to start wrapping this up. Before I ask the last two questions, is there a story you've always wanted to tell in an interview that you've never got a chance to tell before and you can tell it now?
Ooh. Well, I had to ask the guys if there was anything like that. There's a short and funny. There's kind of gross and funny and definitely juvenile. And there's, that's interesting. Why don't you tell me which one of those you want?
Man, that's I feel like the last two would be interesting just because you have my attention on what the fuck could this be. How long are both together, would you say?
Okay, the juvenile one is just a couple of minutes. The that's interesting is that times two.
Okay. So, yeah, I'd say go for it.
Okay. So, we were on tour with Bigwig. We were in a city in Colorado. and I'm not going to name that city in case, just because. We'd been on this tour a couple of weeks, and a thing had been happening where if the collective we got screwed over by the club, a turd would find its way on the floor next to the toilet instead of in the toilet. And but that was usually reserved for the last deed of the night. Thinking, of course, at the time only that the entire club deserved to pay, not the poor person that had to go clean it up. All apologies, workers unite. We got to this club, and it was like 5 p.m, and the sun was shining, and it was fine. And we just showed up, and this club was being the load-in guy and sound guy were just being dicks. I mean, like, really, like, rude, like I don't know what they heard or thought was going to happen, but they were just being really shitty to us, like, as people. 30footFALL and Bigwig had a friend in Colorado named Chris Landry. He, was aware of the gift that was being left by somebody to clubs that had been, shitty to us. In the dressing room, there was a mirror leaning up against the wall. I didn't learn about this story, by the way, until it had already happened and there was a big explosion. But the mirror was laid on the floor, and Chris, he took a shit on it. And it landed standing up like fucking Mr. Hanky, which was a current thing at the time. And to make it even more special, he put a pint glass over the top of it. And everybody bailed out. Remember, I'm elsewhere. I think I'd gone for a walk. I came back, and just in time for this guy to go, "Who fucking did it? I know it was one of you motherfuckers. And when I figure out who it was, I'm going to beat your ass." And of course, everybody's like, "Oh man, someone just wandered in here, man. I don't know what you're talking about." Oh,
why do you do it on a mirror?
He was expressing himself, he's just being creative. Maybe he liked the mirror image of it, giving it like more depth and, dynamics.
That's so fucking gross. All right, what's the other one?
The other is the show where we opened for Face to Face, where everything was terrible. What had happened was we had just gotten started playing. LaForge's guitar string breaks. Like, did not bring an extra guitar, hadn't changed strings, just breaks. Everything is fucked. He goes off stage to ask for a guitar. Everybody is like, our stuff's not here. Hey, as far as I know, he didn't ask anybody for anything. But the story was, like, somebody had turned him down for a guitar from Face to Face. That word, eventually somebody came up with a guitar, but that word got around to a guy who lived in Conroe who wrote a column for Maximum Rock and Roll. And when he heard about it, he wrote about it in Maximum Rock and Roll. It was out there, and we were like, whoa, how did this take off? Because there's no internet at the time. So the Maximum Rock and Roll Holy Bible would come out, and now there's this story. So that was kind of weird. And I was like, well, I'm sad that I like Face to Face so much, but then we had such a shitty show playing with them, and then perhaps they were dismissive of us needing a guitar or something. As far as I have no idea what really happened, okay? But they came through town the next summer, and they were playing at Fitzgerald's for $1. They were looking for an opener, and somebody suggested us, and they said, yeah, get 30footFALL on there. And so at this time, what was Big Choice had come out on a major label. I didn't like Big Choice. I was upset with it, because it wasn't Don't Turn Away Part 2. What's more is, they had a video. They had a song on the radio, and it was 1995. That was dead in the middle of, like, bands were getting picked off and going out here into the machine. I took it personally. So they asked us to play. Well, before the show, when we were all over there, I asked Trevor to have a sit down with me. And man, I was like, what is the deal with you guys signing to a major label? I mean, like, what the fuck on touring and coming up on the scene and then going for this commercial, this and that. To his credit, he listened to everything I had to say and was polite and kind and didn't tell me to go fuck myself, but, said, that's just the path we're trying to take to get to where we want to be. We still care about the music. We still care about our fans. And, we're glad you guys are here. There was nothing like solved at the end of it, except for the fact that I got to express myself to somebody that, I deemed as important to my musical history. Then later that night, when they were halfway through their set, somebody was like, play Disconnected. And they were like, no, we don't want to play that. We've played that a billion times. We play it all the time. And people are yelling for it. And they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to sing it. There were some local folks up front, and they yelled for Butch to go sing it. And he was like, yeah, get up here, Butch. And so I got up. The song started, and it was on the chunky part right before he started singing. And I was like, holy shit, I can't remember the words. And I said, what's the first line? And he says, you don't know a thing. And I was like, okay. And boom, there's the rest of the song. Nailed it while looking at friends smiling and pointing back like, look at it. Look what you're doing. I was so excited. And the reason why I can recall it so well is because somebody came into the bike shop that I work at within the past year and said, I'm sending you a video. I haven't seen you in years, but he had footage of that moment happening. So I got to see that for the first time since it happened. And I was just stoked all over again to lend further weight to this was the 90s and everybody wanted to call you a sellout. When people were yelling for me to go sing it, there was a girl standing right next to the camera going, no, fuck that shit. And because we were too so anyway, years down the road, that was really kind of Trevor to hear me out. Thank you for that and for having me sing a song. If you ever hear this,
dude, that is a great fucking story. Both of them were good, but that one's amazing because I love Face to Face. I really used to absolutely love those guys. So I'm just thinking, when you're you get on stage, I was just like, oh my god, I would die. That would be so fucking cool.
It was a highlight, and I wouldn't say I forgot how badass it was, but I didn't have a touchstone to it, until that guy sent me this video. I was like, holy fucking shit. And then I could just absolutely remember shitting my pants.
Did he, I don't know if you care about this, did he put that on YouTube at all, or?
Oh, I don't know if the guy put it on YouTube. I could find it and send it to you if you're interested.
Oh, fuck yeah, I want to see this.
Cool.
I'm actually putting it on YouTube now. 30footFALL. No ugly, my ugly face. Doesn't seem. Oh, Face to Face full cover. Yeah, dude. I'd love to see that. That'd be super cool.
All right, I'll find it in the next 24 hours and send it to you.
All right, I'll leave a note to follow up with you on that. Were you guys pretty wild on the road, or were you pretty subdued?
Oh, I mean, Chris was the only real partier. The rest of us were kind of tame in comparison. We were like tourists on tour, oh wow, look, there's the dinosaurs from Pee Wee Herman, or let's leave early so we can go to the Grand Canyon. We were mischievous when we toured with Bigwig, which, as I said, was always super fun because they were all great dudes. And the Bigwig that we played with in San Antonio about around 2017 was not the same lineup, but also great people.
Which year was that?
2017 or something. It was called Remember the Punks. Cool guys though. Everybody was good. But yeah, back then it was fun. It was kid fun. Just doing dumb shit, doing dumb shit. Not necessarily a painful or maybe illegal, but not necessarily unethical. There was some shoplifting going on with Damon, our original drummer, and Chris LaForge. There was this one tour where they kept stealing teriyaki jerky from every quickie mart we'd go into. I think we were in like Hermosa Beach, California. Damon went in and it was, those tall, round plastic things full of jerky. He reached in and grabbed the entire thing and put it down like a sleeve of his jacket, and then walks around and goes to get like a Gatorade or something and goes up to the front. And the guy was like, "Hey, you took all my jerky." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he puts back like 4 sticks and slaps his money down and walks back out to the van. And I'm like, Chris, why are we still sitting here? Meanwhile, LaForge was going through I need new sunglasses every other day. So he would grab sunglasses and then walk to where you would get like a big gulp and put the sunglasses in the cup, cover them with ice, cover them with a soda. He always had new lokes, as he would call them. I got my new lokes.
When I hear stories like this, I laugh, but then if I'm out around town and I see stuff like this or kids just doing stupid stuff, sometimes I'm like, "What are you doing?" It's just so funny because it would be people our age telling these stories and it's funny, but then I see it happening presently and I get like annoyed by it, depending on what it is. Where I see kids just being annoying on the streets, I'm like, shut the fuck up. But it's so different when it's the past. Like, oh, it was fine then, but now it's just like, ugh, I'm such an old man at times.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm like, hey, how dare you have an opinion about something you don't know shit about? Like I never did the same thing,
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, shut the fuck up, 21-year-old, give me life advice.
Fuck. I'm 2.5 of you. God damn it.
I know more. Well, cool, man. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up before I ask the last question. What would you like to plug? It could be about you. It could be about a friend or a cause. It could be about all of them.
Okay. If you like Bleach era Nirvana, Houston's El Jumbotron is about to, I think, release their first full length. And they're fun guys who do shows at their house all day long during the summer for free. And they have people just donate via Venmo so they can buy food or pay out-of-town bands. For 30footFALL, thank you to People of Punk Rock Records, Anthony of People of Punk Rock Records, for hitting us up for a couple of years before we said, okay, what do you want? And he re-released Doppler Effect for the first time on vinyl and got us on the Red Bridge Fest. He came with us on the European tour. He's working with us to put out our live album, which was the last show at Fitzgerald's before they closed and got torn down. So got that live album happening, and we've got I've got 10 songs written down on a piece of paper that are in various states of demoing. So we actually have hope for a new album, and those are my plugs.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm actually on their website right now. He's got like you guys. He's got Rufio, 10footFALL, a ton of records he's put out. Useless ID. Damn, I think I remember the 10footFALL one being on there. Choke, Vanilla Sky. Cool, man. Yeah, I like the T-shirt that you guys have on the website. It's the 30 years, 30footFALL.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool design. I dig that. I just talked to Eric from Melancholy, and he was talking about the story about Tiny Toons and how they got sued. And I'm like as I'm on their website, there's like that design on a skateboard. I don't know if this is an ad though. Oh, it is an ad. Oh no, it's not an ad. Oh, interesting. All right, cool. Yeah, it's peopleofpunkrockrecords.com if you guys want to go check that out. All right, last question. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Scene ethics.
Kind of like things you picked up going to shows that you still carry with you now.
I'll say that ever since I saw my first local band and realized that you didn't have to be from some planet where musicians are born to make things happen or to do fun, cool stuff, I felt inspired and I guess empowered to do the same thing myself. And so I would encourage anyone who has the feeling that they want to do that to take it as far as you can, and remember that you are still the person who discovered music and were turned on by it, and maybe you can get other people to do the same thing. I still don't want morons to beat people up at our shows. Still want the shows to feel safe and fun. And I definitely, I'm not DIY or else, but I definitely want to feel respected by any entity that we have to do business with. I'm pretty proud of how hands-on we've been, whether it was our choice or not, throughout this entire adventure. We did it on our own steam and or lack thereof. It's amazing to look back and see it. And I would like to, I want to do it as long as we can, just because it's great to be connected to something where people can communicate and hang out and get together around something that feels good, and that's hearing and playing music.